Welcome to the Veil of Truth, your gateway to uncovering hidden insights and illuminating mysteries. I'm thrilled you've joined our global community. Whether you're watching from a bustling city skyline or a quiet countryside, we're glad you're here. Globe showing Europe, Africa, so tell me, where are you tuning in from today? Chapter 1, The Invitation to Calcutta. The morning air shimmered above the tarmac as our steamer trunk was lifted from the railway carriage. Calcutta, with its heat and hum, seemed to breathe like a living thing, restless, magnificent, and faintly perilous. Even the very sunlight felt foreign to my English eyes, too bright, too bold, as though the city itself wished to show that it had secrets worth uncovering. "Mon cher Hastings," said Poirot, fanning himself delicately with his straw hat, "I believe I have already seen 10 crimes in the past 3 minutes, all against good taste. Observe those stripes with checks, Hein." He gestured disdainfully at a passing Anglo-Indian gentleman whose suit defied all notions of sartorial harmony. I laughed. "You'll find Calcutta a strange kind of battlefield, Poirot, fashion included." He gave a small sigh. "Everywhere there is disorder, my friend. But remember, it is in disorder that order can best be discerned. We shall see what this city conceals beneath its splendid confusion." We had arrived by train from Bombay, intending to rest a few days before embarking for Hong Kong. Yet as fate so often dictates, our peace was short-lived. That very afternoon, as we sipped tea at the Grand Hotel under a whirling fan, a liveried messenger approached our table with a silver tray and an envelope bordered in gold. Poirot raised an eyebrow. "You see, Hastings, I cannot even take tea without invitations appearing from the ether." The letter bore a bold crest, a lion rampant clutching scales of justice, and an elegant signature beneath the printed words. "Sir Arjun Mukherjee, Barrister at Law, Chowringhe, Calcutta." Poirot broke the seal, read swiftly, and smiled. "My dear Monsieur Poirot, your reputation has preceded you to our shores. Might I prevail upon your curiosity to attend a small gathering at my residence tomorrow evening? I shall unveil an object of rare beauty and some legend, the Star of Bengal, a sapphire of extraordinary brilliance. Your presence would be an honor to my guests and myself. Yours sincerely, Arjun Mukherjee." Poirot folded the letter with great care. "A sapphire, Hastings. A star, even. It calls to us. You mean to say you'll go?" "But naturally. The pursuit of the curious, the rare, and the beautiful, it is the essence of civilization. Besides, one never knows when beauty conceals danger. I had met Sir Arjun briefly in London some years earlier. A dignified man in his early 40s, educated at Cambridge, he had returned to India to practice law and manage his late father's estates. His reputation was one of brilliance and integrity, though whispers of eccentricity trailed him. That Star of Bengal, I recalled vaguely, was a jewel of almost mythical renown, said to have once adorned the crown of a Mughal prince before vanishing during the uprisings of the last century. The following evening we drove to his residence, a sprawling mansion on the southern edge of the Maidan. A crescent moon hung low, and the trees were alive with cicadas. The house itself glowed like an island of light amid the dark gardens, its marble veranda guarded by carved elephants and servants in immaculate white. At the door we were greeted by Sir Arjun himself, tall, graceful, with thoughtful eyes and a neat moustache that would, I feared, make even Poirot envious. He welcomed us warmly, his English precise and polished, though tinged with a melancholy cadence. "Welcome to Chowringhe House, Monsieur Poirot, Captain Hastings. It is an honor. You will find tonight's company varied." Inside, the air was cool and scented faintly with sandalwood. The guests gathered in a high-ceilinged salon beneath fans turning lazily like great white flowers. Crystal chandeliers reflected in the polished floor, and servants moved silently with trays of champagne and mango sherbet. Poirot's eyes missed nothing. "Observe, Hastings, the arrangement of chairs. The host has planned the seating for conversation, not display. A man who likes control. Among the guests were several notable figures of Calcutta society. Lady Eleanor Fielding, a tall Englishwoman with pearls and a past, stood near the pianoforte, conversing with a colonel whose sunburnt face looked permanently astonished. The colonel, as we soon learned, was Colonel Dobson, retired and reputedly obsessed with Eastern artifacts. He eyed the room as though it were a military campaign. A short distance away stood Dr. Amara Das, a scholar in a simple silk sari, speaking quietly with a handsome young man, Ravi Mukherjee, Sir Arjun's younger brother. Ravi had the easy charm and careless laughter of youth, but there was restlessness behind his eyes. He plays polo, gambles at the club, and has debts, murmured Lady Fielding when she caught my glance. Quite the scandal, I'm told. At last, Sir Arjun called for attention. His voice, calm yet commanding, filled the room. My friends, you honor me by your presence. Tonight I unveil not merely a jewel, but a relic of our history, the Star of Bengal. The servants drew back a velvet curtain to reveal a glass case upon a pedestal. Inside, on black silk, rested the sapphire, immense, oval, and blue as twilight. Light seemed to swim within it, deep and living. Even Poirot, for once, was silent. It is beautiful, Lady Fielding whispered. Sir Arjun smiled faintly. Legend says it was blessed and cursed in equal measure. It brings fortune to the pure of heart, ruin to the deceitful. I trust, he added lightly, that tonight it shall bring only pleasure. Laughter rippled through the guests, but Poirot's expression remained thoughtful. His eyes flicked not to the jewel, but to those admiring it, noting their reactions with the precision of a watchmaker. After the toast, conversation resumed. Music drifted from the pianoforte, and the scent of jasmine floated in from the garden. Yet beneath the charm of the evening, a strange undercurrent lingered, as though each guest carried a secret hope, or fear, about the gem's presence. Later, as we prepared to leave, Poirot paused in the doorway, gazing once more at the sapphire glittering under the lights. Hastings, he murmured, do you perceive how each person looks upon that stone differently? To one it is beauty, to another, possession, to another, guilt. The gem is but a mirror. You don't think anything untoward will happen? He smiled, almost sadly. Mon ami, whenever men and women gather around great wealth and hidden hearts, something always happens. Outside, the moonlight gleamed faintly on the Hooghly River beyond the gardens, and thunder muttered far away, a distant herald of the storm to come. Chapter 2, The Night of the Sapphire. The storm came swiftly, as if summoned by some unseen conductor. By 10 o'clock the heavens had opened above Calcutta, rain falling in torrents upon the marble terrace of Chowringhee House. Thunder rolled like drums in the distance, and the palm trees bent under the fury of the wind. Within, the great mansion glowed with candlelight and conversation, though the laughter of the guests occasionally faltered at each flash of lightning. Poirot and I lingered near the grand staircase after dinner, watching Sir Arjun circulate among his guests. The sapphire, the Star of Bengal, now rested again in its glass case in the adjoining gallery, guarded by a single servant who stood, hands folded, near the door. Sir Arjun seemed in good spirits, but once or twice I caught him glance towards the gallery with an unease that contradicted his courteous smile. The nerves of a collector, murmured Poirot. When one loves an object too much, one begins to fear the world that covets it. I chuckled. You speak as though the jewel might run away on its own. Perhaps not the jewel, Hastings, but the desires it awakens, they run wild indeed. At that moment the lights flickered, dimmed, then brightened again. A murmur passed through the room. The butler hurried to reassure everyone that the storm had disturbed the electrical supply. Sir Arjun laughed lightly, but Poirot's eyes narrowed. You observe, Hastings? Such interruptions, they are convenient things. Convenient for whom? I asked. For whoever needs darkness to act unseen. His words unsettled me more than I cared to admit. By 11:30, Lady Fielding complained of the oppressive heat and requested the veranda doors be opened. The servants obeyed, letting in a rush of humid air scented with rain and earth. From beyond the veranda came the low hum of frogs and the occasional crack of thunder. I thought the atmosphere curiously strained, even the chatter seemed forced. Poirot, as ever, was composed. He sat with Dr. Amara Das, discussing Sanskrit inscriptions and the ethics of collecting sacred artifacts. Ravi Mukherjee hovered nearby, glass in hand, his laughter a shade too loud. Colonel Dobson had taken to boasting about his years on the frontier, while Lady Fielding alternated between fanning herself and eyeing the Sapphire gallery. At midnight, just as the clock in the hall began to strike 12, the lights went out entirely. There was a collective gasp, followed by the crash of glass somewhere across the hall. A woman cried out. I stumbled forward in the darkness, groping for direction. "Keep still!" I shouted. "Don't move, someone find a lantern." I heard Poirot's calm voice through the confusion. "Remain tranquil, Miss Amiss. Panic will serve no one." Moments later, a servant lit an oil lamp. Its trembling light revealed faces pale with shock, and Sir Arjun, standing rigid in the doorway of the gallery, staring at the empty pedestal. The glass case lay shattered, the silk cushion bare. The Star of Bengal was gone. For a few seconds, there was utter silence. Then everyone began to speak at once, accusations, questions, denials. Colonel Dobson declared it an inside job. Lady Fielding clutched her pearls and moaned that she had always known the gem was cursed. Ravi swore it must be the work of thieves from the servants' quarters. Dr. Das stood still, eyes closed, whispering what might have been a prayer. Poirot moved into the gallery without a word. He knelt beside the shattered case, his small figure illuminated by the flickering lamplight. I followed, taking care not to disturb the glass. "What do you see?" I asked. Poirot pointed delicately with a pencil. A smudge on the inner side of the display glass, a fingerprint, perhaps, though not clear enough. And there, on the floor, a match, half burnt. "It is English-made." I bent to look. "Someone used it to see in the dark." "Possibly. But note, there is no smell of sulphur in the air. This was struck before the lights went out." He turned his gaze to the veranda doors, which now stood slightly ajar. The curtain stirred faintly in the wind, carrying a scent of jasmine, subtle yet distinct. "Jasmine," Poirot murmured. "A rare perfume for so stormy a night. You think someone escaped that way?" "None. The rain would have drenched them. Look, no footprints leading out, only in. Whoever entered did not leave this way." He straightened, his expression grave. "Come, Hastings. Let us see the household assembled." So Arjun had already summoned everyone to the main hall. Servants lined up nervously near the staircase, the guests stood apart, each a portrait of outrage or fear. Lightning flashed behind the tall windows, momentarily illuminating the scene like a photographer's bulb. So Arjun's voice trembled slightly. "No one is to leave this house until the sapphire is found. My staff will lock the gates." "Quite right," said Colonel Dobson briskly. "We must search the servants' quarters at once." Poirot raised a hand. "Pardon, Colonel, but before the hunt begins, let us think. When a jewel disappears, it is not the hands but the mind that must be traced." He turned to the host. "So Arjun, who had keys to this gallery?" "Only myself, my brother, and the butler, Ramesh." "And yet the case was broken," Poirot said softly. "That suggests not knowledge, but haste, or desperation." Lady Fielding spoke up, her voice trembling. "Could it not have been a burglar from outside? The city is full of them." The veranda doors were locked from within, Poirot replied. And the storm would have deterred even the most enterprising thief. Ravi interjected hotly, "You're implying someone here, one of us, stole it." Poirot regarded him gently. "I imply nothing, monsieur. I merely observe. And I observe that you, unlike the others, do not look at the empty case. You look at your brother." Ravi coloured. "Because I can't believe this has happened to him." That duel meant everything to Arjun. Sir Arjun waved a hand tiredly. "Enough, Ravi. Monsieur Poirot is right, suspicion will lead nowhere. The police can come in the morning." "Until then," said Poirot, "let everyone retire to their rooms. Hastings and I will remain in the gallery for a moment longer." When the others had gone, the house seemed to sink into uneasy silence. The rain still lashed the windows, and the electric lights flickered once before dying completely. Only the faint glow of the oil lamp remained. Poirot moved slowly about the room, examining the shattered glass again, the curtains, the rug beneath the pedestal. Then he knelt once more beside the broken case and picked up something small from the floor, a sliver of coloured thread caught in the jagged edge. "Blue silk," he murmured. "From a woman's gown, perhaps, though not Lady Fielding's. Hers was ivory." He placed the thread carefully into his notebook and closed it. "Another puzzle piece," I said. He smiled faintly. "Indeed. And puzzles, my friend, are rarely what they appear. The sapphire is gone, but I suspect it is not theft alone that visits this house tonight." A roll of thunder shook the window panes. Poirot turned toward the darkened hall, his face lit for a moment by lightning. "Mark my words, Hastings," he said softly. "Before dawn, there will be more than one loss to mourn." Chapter 3: The Death of Sir Arjun. The storm had subsided by morning, leaving Charinghe House draped in a ghostly calm. The lawn shimmered with rainwater, the air was heavy with the scent of wet earth and faint traces of jasmine. Inside, however, the household was restless. Servants whispered in corners, guests moved with uneasy haste, as if silence itself accused them. Poirot and I had slept little. We had remained awake most of the night, reviewing each minute detail of the Sapphire's disappearance, though to all appearances Poirot had spent much of the time polishing his moustache and arranging his breakfast tray with geometric precision. "Breakfast, Poirot?" I said wearily. "How can you eat after a night like that?" He raised a finger. "Order, mon ami, even in chaos. The stomach must not be neglected. One must feed the little grey cells as well as the body." Before I could reply, a sudden cry echoed through the house, shrill, desperate, unmistakably that of a woman. We both sprang up. Poirot was at the door before I could reach my coat. Down the corridor we ran, guided by the commotion. Two servants stood outside a study at the far end, faces pale. Lady Fielding was inside, sobbing uncontrollably. On the floor, slumped beside a mahogany desk, lay the body of Sir Arjun Mukherjee. He was dressed in a silk robe, a dagger protruding from his chest. A thin trail of blood had run across the carpet, pooling beneath one outstretched hand. The air was still, as though the very walls held their breath. Poirot bent immediately beside the body, his movements quick but deliberate. He touched nothing at first, simply looking, his gaze sweeping from the dagger to the desk, to the teacup resting untouched near the edge. "When was he found?" he asked quietly. Lady Fielding sobbed, "Just now. I came to speak to him, he hadn't appeared for breakfast. I knocked, there was no answer, so Her voice broke. Poirot nodded gently. "Courage, madam. We shall find the truth. Hastings, close the door. No one must enter or leave until I have finished." The servants obeyed in frightened silence. Poirot knelt again, examining the dagger's hilt, then the paperweight that had rolled onto the floor. He noted the curtains, drawn tightly though sunlight blazed outside, and the faint scent of sandalwood smoke. "You notice, Hastings, that the tea is untouched," he said softly. He was interrupted. "The dagger, ornate but clean, taken from his own display, I think. And the window curtains, why closed? Was the light unwelcome, or was someone within afraid to be seen?" He turned to the butler, Ramesh, who stood trembling near the door. "When did you last see your master alive?" "Late last night, Sahib." "After the incident?" "He asked for tea, but when I brought it, he said to leave it on the table. That was about 12:30. "And you heard nothing unusual during the night?" "No, Sahib, only thunder." Poirot looked thoughtful. "And the house was locked from within?" "Yes, Sahib. All doors bolted before I slept." Poirot moved to the desk. Papers lay scattered, letters, notes, a fountain pen uncapped and leaking ink. He picked up one page with gloved fingers. It bore only a few words. "The truth must be told, tomorrow." He raised an eyebrow. "The truth, about what, I wonder?" At that moment, Ravi Mukherjee appeared at the door, his face drawn. "What's happened?" "I heard," he stopped short, staring at his brother's body. "Good God!" Poirot watched him carefully. "You should not be here, monsieur, but since you are, tell us, did your brother have enemies?" Ravi's lips trembled. "Enemies?" "No. But lately he seemed uneasy. He'd been receiving letters from someone in Benares, something about the Sapphire's history. He wouldn't show me the contents." Poirot nodded slowly. "The Star of Bengal again. So the theft and this," he gestured toward the body, "are perhaps not strangers to each other." The local police were summoned, but Poirot's authority, once recognized, allowed him to continue his quiet inspection. He examined the dagger with delicate precision. The hilt was carved ivory, inlaid with silver. "No fingerprints," he murmured. "Someone has been careful. But see, a small smear near the base. Not blood, Hastings, rouge, or perhaps powder." I frowned. "Cosmetics?" "Then a woman." Poirot's eyes twinkled. "We shall not leap so swiftly to conclusions. The truth may wear many perfumes." Lady Fielding, composed at last, returned to the doorway. "Monsieur Poirot, you must believe me, I saw nothing, I know nothing." "Poor Arjun! Such a gentleman. Who could wish him harm?" Poirot bowed slightly. "The question, madam, is not only who could wish it, but who feared the truth he would tell." Her eyes flickered, just for an instant, before she looked away. By midday, the inspector arrived, a brisk, mustached Bengali officer named Superintendent Bose. He was courteous but direct. "Monsieur Poirot, we shall examine all rooms and interview the guests. You think the two events connected, the theft and the murder?" Poirot inclined his head. "I do not think, I observe. The theft created confusion, the perfect curtain behind which a darker drama could unfold. The murderer is among us, Inspector, of that I am certain." "Then we shall see," said Bose grimly. "No one leaves this house." By afternoon, the sun burned fiercely upon the drenched gardens. Poirot and I took a brief walk outside while the servant sealed the study. "Hastings," said Poirot, "you remember what I told you, that where great wealth and hidden hearts meet, something always happens. The tragedy last night was born long before the storm began." "You mean a quarrel?" "Perhaps. Or guilt, or betrayal. Consider, Sir Arjun receives a letter from Benares, hinting that his prized gem may not be what he believes. He plans to reveal the truth tomorrow. Then, within hours, the gem vanishes, and he is murdered. Two events, but one thread. The same person behind both. Poirot smiled faintly. That is the question. Yet the method differs. Theft by stealth, murder by passion. I suspect two hands, but one motive. As we turned back toward the veranda, a faint glimmer caught Poirot's eye near the gravel path. He stooped, picking up a tiny object, a broken cufflink, gold, shaped like a serpent biting its tail. Interesting, he murmured. A symbol of eternity, and of secrets devouring themselves. He slipped it into his pocket. Inside, tension coiled tighter. Colonel Dobson fumed that his name would be dragged into scandal. Dr. Amara remained eerily calm, her gaze fixed upon the rain-smeared windows. Ravi paced like a caged animal. And Lady Fielding, she sat apart, a glass of brandy in hand, her perfume, Jasmine, faintly perceptible even across the room. That evening, as the body was carried away and the guests withdrew in subdued silence, Poirot stood alone in the gallery. The shattered glass from the night before still littered the floor, glittering like ice. He spoke softly, half to himself. The first crime concealed the second. The sapphire was not the true prize. Something else was sought, something hidden, perhaps, in the study. Then he looked up, his eyes sharp as ever. But I begin to see the pattern. The little grey cells, they arrange themselves. He turned toward me. Come, Hastings. Let us dine. Murder or no murder, the stomach does not solve riddles upon emptiness. Tomorrow, we begin again, and we shall see whose mask will crack first. Chapter 4, Secrets Beneath the Silk. The following day dawned bright and pitiless, the sun glinting on the marble of Charinghe House as if mocking the tragedy it enclosed. No guests had been permitted to leave. Superintendent Bose and his men were thorough, yet even he admitted, with some reluctance, that Hercule Poirot's presence rendered his task both easier and more exacting. Poirot had taken command of the library as his headquarters. A great mahogany desk stood before him, a silver-topped inkwell at his right, and a neat row of notepaper before him. He sat with the poise of a magistrate, immaculately dressed, every crease in his suit sharp as a blade. His moustache gleamed like polished silver in the sunlight. We shall conduct, Hastings, what I call the symphony of truth, he said with satisfaction. Each person will play their note. Some discordant, some sweet, but together they shall compose our melody of guilt. You're optimistic, I remarked. Half the house is terrified, the other half indignant. Poirot smiled. Fear and indignation, mon ami, are excellent musicians, they never lie for long. Superintendent Bose entered, saluting Poirot with a brief nod. My men have searched every trunk and drawer, monsieur. No sign of the sapphire. Poirot clasped his hands. Then let us begin with the minds, not the furniture. I'm Lady Eleanor Fielding. Lady Fielding entered first, pale but composed, her silk gown whispering softly as she Saturday. Her perfume, unmistakably jasmine, filled the air. Such dreadful business, Monsieur Poirot, she said faintly. I can scarcely believe it. Poor Sir Arjun, and after that ghastly night. Poirot regarded her steadily. Indeed, madam. You were most distressed at the disappearance of the sapphire. But tell me, how well did you know Sir Arjun? Her fan trembled slightly. We were acquaintances. I had met him several times in London. He was most charming, and always spoke of India with such pride. Did you ever conduct business together? Gems, perhaps. Her eyes flickered, almost imperceptibly. Business? No, certainly not. Strange, said Poirot gently. Because I understand that part of your late husband's collection was once sold to Sir Arjun. A small matter, perhaps, but debts are such delicate things. Her expression hardened. That was years ago. A minor transaction, perfectly legitimate. Poirot inclined his head. "Mais oui. And yet, last night, you fainted the moment the sapphire was found missing. Any woman might faint, confronted with such chaos. Not every woman, madam, leaves behind a trace of her perfume by the veranda at midnight." For a fraction of a second, her composure faltered. "You accuse me?" "I accuse no one. I only observe." Poirot's tone was mild, but his eyes were like twin needles. "Tell me, where were you when the lights went out?" "I had just stepped toward the veranda to get air. The heat was dreadful. Then, darkness. I screamed, I think." Poirot nodded. "That will do for now, madam. Please remain available." As she left, her perfume lingered, sweet, heavy, and somehow sorrowful. 2. Colonel Dobson. Colonel Dobson entered next, ruddy-faced and indignant, his moustache bristling. "Damn disgrace, this whole affair," he barked. "A gentleman invites people to dinner and ends up murdered under his own roof. I tell you, Poirot, it's the servants. Always is." Poirot looked politely bored. "You are certain of this?" "Of course. Jewel stolen, doors locked, confusion, classic native trick. They'll have melted that sapphire by now." Poirot lifted an eyebrow. "Melted a sapphire, Colonel? A curious alchemy indeed." The Colonel flushed. "You know what I mean. Anyway, I've nothing to hide." "Then you will not mind, perhaps, explaining why you quarrelled with Sir Arjun last week?" Dobson started. "Who told you that?" "Ah, so it is true." He shifted uncomfortably. "A misunderstanding, that's all. I made an offer for the sapphire, fair price, too, but Arjun refused. Said it wasn't for sale at any cost. And you were displeased." "I was astonished, that's all. Man collects stones like I collect medals, then refuses a business offer. Dash eccentric." Poirot leaned forward. "And after the theft, Colonel, you were the first to suggest the servants be searched." "Because I know how these things work." "Or because," said Poirot softly, "you wished the attention elsewhere." Dobson's face reddened. "Now see here." Poirot raised a hand. "It is enough, Colonel." "Thank you." As he left, Poirot murmured, "Such men make the mistake of thinking anger hides fear. It does not." 3. Dr. Amara Das. When Dr. Das entered, the room seemed to cool. She wore a simple white sari and carried herself with calm dignity. Her dark eyes were steady, her voice low but clear. "Monsieur Poirot," she said, "you wish to know about the Star of Bengal." "Indeed, mademoiselle. You warned Sir Arjun it was cursed. Do you believe in such things?" She smiled faintly. "Curses, no. But I believe in justice, and in the power of truth to punish lies." "An admirable sentiment," Poirot said. "Tell me, were you aware that the sapphire might be a forgery?" "I suspected it. The design of the mounting was inconsistent with Mughal craftsmanship. I told Sir Arjun so." "And his reaction?" "He was troubled. He said he had proof of its authenticity, documents sent from Benares. But when I asked to see them, he refused." Poirot leaned back. "Then you knew of the letter that arrived before his death?" "Yes. He told me only that the writer had betrayed him once. He would say no more." Poirot's eyes glinted. "And where were you when the theft occurred?" "In the drawing room, near the window. The thunder frightened one of the servants, and I tried to calm her." Poirot smiled. "You are kind, mademoiselle. Perhaps too kind." Her gaze did not waver. Kindness and guilt are not the same, monsieur. When she had gone, Hastings whispered, "You think she's hiding something?" Of course. But not for herself. For Ravi Mukherjee. The final interview was with Ravi. He entered looking worn and pale, his usual charm replaced by agitation. "This is intolerable," he burst out. "My brother is dead, and now we're treated like criminals." Poirot's tone was mild. "You loved your brother." "Yes, of course I did." Then, after a pause, "though we disagreed, often." "About money?" Ravi hesitated. "He disapproved of my gambling, my friends, everything." "And yet you quarrelled on the night before his death." "Who told you that?" "Your voice carries, monsieur," Poirot said dryly. "Many heard." Ravi sank into a chair. "We argued because he was going to make changes to his will. He said I had no discipline, that the Mukherjee name would be ruined by my behaviour." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "So you stood to lose everything?" Ravi looked up sharply. "You think I killed him?" "I think, monsieur, that desperation and opportunity are frequent companions." Ravi's hands clenched. "I may be a fool, but I'm no murderer." Poirot regarded him silently, then said, "Where were you when the lights went out?" "In the corridor, on my way to fetch my brother. He had called for me earlier, but I couldn't find him. When the lights returned, everything was chaos." Poirot nodded slowly. "Very well, monsieur. That will be all." When Ravi had gone, the room fell quiet. Poirot sat back, fingers steepled, eyes half closed. "Well?" I asked. "What do you make of them?" He smiled faintly. "Each hides something, but the lies are not all of equal weight. The colonel hides greed. The lady hides shame. The brother hides fear. And the doctor, she hides knowledge." He rose, dusting an imaginary speck from his sleeve. "But the pattern, Hastings, it grows clearer. Murder, like embroidery, reveals itself in the threads left behind." Outside, the sun was sinking over the Hooghly River, staining the sky crimson. Somewhere in the garden, a coal bird called mournfully, and the scent of jasmine drifted once more through the open window. Poirot glanced toward it, thoughtful. "The night of the storm began with a theft," he murmured. "But the motive began long before, beneath the silk of civilization itself." Chapter 5: The Letter from Benares. The following morning, a thick mist clung to the gardens of Chowringhe House, veiling the marble statues in a ghostly pallor. The air carried the scent of wet earth and rain-drenched jasmine. Somewhere, a coal bird sang a melancholy tune. Inside, the great mansion seemed unnaturally silent, as if holding its breath in expectation. Poirot was already awake when I entered the library. He stood before the window, hands clasped behind his back, his silhouette framed against the pale light. "Good morning, Poirot," I greeted him. "You look thoughtful." "Toujours, mon ami," he replied softly. "One must think if one wishes to see. And sometimes, to see, one must not look directly." I blinked, baffled as usual by his riddling wisdom. "I gather you've not slept." 3 hours. That is sufficient when one's little grey cells are dancing the tango." He gestured toward the desk. A small parcel lay there, wrapped in brown paper and tied with string. The name Sir Arjun Mukherjee was inscribed in neat black ink. A courier from Benares, it appeared, had delivered it that morning. Poirot's eyes glinted. "It seems, Hastings, that the dead man has received a letter at last." "Aye, the parcel." Superintendent Bose arrived just as Poirot began to open it. "This came by the early mail," he said. "We checked it for fingerprints, none but the postmaster's." Poirot nodded. "Bien. Let us see what the past sends us. He untied the string with exaggerated care and unfolded the paper. Inside was a small envelope containing a single sheet of parchment, folded twice, and a velvet pouch. From the pouch, Poirot drew a blue gem, smaller than the missing star of Bengal but dazzling in the morning light. "Another sapphire?" I exclaimed. Boss frowned. "A replica, perhaps?" Poirot examined it under his magnifying glass. "None. This one is genuine, though imperfect, a twin, maybe, or an original." He turned to the letter and began to read aloud. "To the letter. To Sir Arjun Mukherjee. I return to you what was divided. You hold in your possession what is not rightfully yours. When the storm breaks, so shall truth. L.K.?" The initials seemed to hover in the air like smoke. "L.K., I murmured. Could that be Dr. Leela Krishnan?" Poirot smiled faintly. "It could, Hastings. But we must not leap to conclusions, that is a privilege only the murderer enjoys." Boss looked grave. If this letter reached him before his death, it could have provoked a quarrel. Poirot tapped the paper thoughtfully. "Or a meeting. Tell me, Superintendent, where are the household's postal records?" "In the study." "I'll fetch them." When he had gone, Poirot placed the gem beside his coffee cup and studied it as though it might whisper secrets. "2 sapphires, 2 owners, and 1 death," he said softly. "The symmetry is exquisite, is it not?" "Exquisite," I protested. "It's devilish." Poirot chuckled. "Precisely." 3. The discovery. By midday, the mansion had stirred with activity. Servants moved quietly through the corridors, and the guests gathered for a tense luncheon. Whispers flitted like moths from one table to another. Lady Fielding avoided everyone's gaze, her pallor pronounced beneath her powdered face. Dr. Das appeared calm but withdrawn, while Ravi Mukherjee sat apart, head bowed, untouched food before him. Poirot entered late, serene as ever. He bowed to the assembled company, his every motion deliberate. "Mesdames et messieurs," he began, "I have news that may interest you. A letter has arrived, from Benares." Ravi looked up sharply. "Benares? That's where Arjun studied archaeology before the war." Poirot inclined his head. "Just so. The letter contains both a gem and a warning. It speaks of something divided, something not rightfully owned." A murmur swept through the room. Lady Fielding's fingers tightened on her napkin. "Surely you don't suggest—" "I suggest nothing yet, madam. But I shall ask each of you to assemble in the library this afternoon. There, we shall speak of division, not only of jewels, but of hearts, of fortunes, and of truth." 4. The afternoon gathering. At 4 o'clock, they were all gathered. The monsoon clouds had rolled in once more, and thunder grumbled distantly over the Hooghly. Poirot stood by the great fireplace, the new sapphire gleaming on the mantelpiece beside the old photograph of Sir Arjun and his late father. "You see," Poirot began, "the Star of Bengal was not unique. It was part of a pair, known in legend as the Eyes of Kartikeya. When the Chola dynasty fell, the twins were separated, one kept in the temple at Benares, the other stolen and lost to time." Dr. Das nodded slowly. "I have read of them. They were said to bring fortune to the rightful bearer and ruin to the thief." "Just so," said Poirot. "So Arjun purchased one from a dealer in Bombay 3 years ago. He believed it genuine. But someone else, someone who knew of the twin, sought to reunite them." Lady Fielding gave a short, nervous laugh. "You mean someone here?" Poirot's eyes shone. "But naturally. Only those present at Chowringhee House knew of the gem's display. Only one among you corresponded secretly with a contact in Benares. He turned suddenly toward Dr. Das. You, mademoiselle, received letters from the University of Benares last month, did you not? I did, she admitted calmly. Academic correspondence. And yet, said Poirot gently, this letter was written on the same parchment, in the same ink, by the same hand. A murmur rippled through the room. Dr. Das met his gaze without fear. Yes, I wrote it. Ravi sprang to his feet. You admit it? Calm yourself, monsieur, Poirot interjected. Dr. Das has admitted to writing the letter, not to killing your brother. Boss frowned. Then why the secrecy, doctor? She drew a deep breath. Because I had discovered something that would have destroyed Sir Arjun's reputation, and my own. The sapphire he possessed was indeed authentic, but it had been smuggled from the temple during colonial excavations. My letter was to warn him that a priest from Benares was coming to reclaim it. I never imagined he would be murdered. Poirot nodded thoughtfully. That is brave, mademoiselle, and true. Yet not complete. The hidden truth. The storm broke then, sudden and violent, rattling the shutters. Poirot raised his voice above the thunder. There is one thing, Miss Amos, that no one has yet explained. When I examined the desk in Sir Arjun's study, I found traces of blue velvet fibre, the same as from the pouch of the letter. But the pouch delivered today is intact. Therefore, another identical one was present in the room before the murder. He turned toward Ravi. You recognized the pouch, did you not? Ravi swallowed. Yes. I saw it once before. In my brother's drawer. Precisely, said Poirot softly. The thief and the murderer sought to replace the stolen sapphire with its twin. But the exchange failed. One gem vanished, and one life ended. Both leaned forward. And who would do such a thing? Poirot's gaze lingered on each face in turn, Lady Fielding's trembling lips, the Colonel's scowl, Dr. Das's calm resolve, Ravi's haunted eyes. He smiled faintly. That, Superintendent, we shall discuss tomorrow morning, when the last act of our little drama unfolds. For tonight, let each of our guests consider the truth they have concealed. He straightened his cuffs and looked toward the darkening windows. Ah, Hastings, the rain, it washes much away, does it not? But not the stain of guilt. The thunder rolled again, deep and unending, as the lights flickered above us. Somewhere in the corridor, a door slammed, or was it the sound of someone fleeing into the storm? Poirot turned to me, his expression unreadable. Tomorrow, mon ami, he murmured. We shall look into the eyes of Kartikeya, and see who dares not meet his gaze. Chapter 6, The Storm Breaks Again. The night pressed upon Charinghe House like a heavy cloak. Rain lashed the windows, and the old mango tree swayed under the wind's assault. The servants had retreated to their quarters, leaving the great mansion eerily quiet save for the rhythmic dripping of water through a crack in the ceiling. I confess, I slept little. Poirot had retired early, but I knew from long experience that his mind was never still. Around midnight, I heard soft footsteps in the corridor and the faint creak of his door. When I ventured to peek out, I caught a glimpse of him, a small figure in his silk dressing gown, candle in hand, gliding soundlessly toward the study. Curiosity overcame me. I followed. The study door was ajar. Inside, Poirot stood before the desk, examining something by candlelight. His shadow danced upon the wall like a curious twin. Can't sleep either, Poirot? I whispered. He turned, startled but not displeased. Ah, mon ami, you are like the cat that hears the rustle of the mouse. Come in, but quietly. What are you looking at? He gestured toward the writing desk. Observe, Hastings. The papers have been disturbed. I peered closer. The pile of letters Poirot had neatly arranged earlier that day now lay scattered, and one drawer was slightly open. "Burglary?" I suggested. Poirot shook his head. "None. Too subtle. Our nocturnal visitor sought only one thing, information." He lifted a torn envelope, its contents missing. The name upon it was still visible, Sir Arjun Mukherjee, private. The missing document, Poirot said softly, is the second half of the Benares correspondence. "You mean there were two letters?" "But naturally. The first warned. The second explained." He blew out the candle. "Come, Hastings. We must wait." I the shadow in the corridor. We hid ourselves behind the half-open door, the room lit only by the faint glow of the storm outside. The minutes passed in silence save for the wind. Then, at last, a rustle, the soft pad of bare feet on marble. The door creaked. Through the sliver of light, we saw a figure slip into the study, slender, cloaked in a shawl, face obscured. The intruder moved straight to the desk, knelt, and reached into the drawer Poirot had left half open. Poirot struck a match. "Bonsoir, mademoiselle," he said calmly. "It is not polite to search another man's drawers." The figure froze. Then, with a low gasp, Dr. Amara straightened, her eyes wide in the sudden light. "2. The doctor's confession." "Dr. Das," I exclaimed. "You?" She composed herself quickly. I had to see the letters again." "Because you feared what they might reveal?" Poirot asked softly. "Because I wanted to protect the truth," she said. "You don't understand. Sir Arjun's death will bring disgrace to our work, our country." "I thought if I destroyed the second letter." Poirot raised a hand. "Ah, so there was a second letter." She hesitated, then nodded. It explained everything. The man who wrote from Benares, Lakshman Kaul, was my mentor. He and I once excavated near the temple of Kartikeya. We discovered the twin sapphires hidden within a statue. I sent one to the museum, so Arjun purchased the other years later, unknowingly taking what belonged to the temple. Lakshman sought its return, peacefully. His letter warned that if Arjun refused, he would expose the theft. Poirot's eyes softened. "And you feared scandal?" "Yes." Sir Arjun's reputation was already fragile. He had powerful friends, English collectors who financed his expeditions. If it became known he held a sacred relic, it would destroy him. Poirot nodded thoughtfully. And yet, someone else knew of this secret and chose murder. A flash of lightning illuminated the room, followed by thunder so loud that it shook the windows. When it faded, Poirot said quietly, "Mademoiselle, I ask one more question. Where were you truly when the lights went out?" Her composure faltered. "I was outside the study. I had gone to fetch Sir Arjun's medical case. He had asked for it earlier, said he felt unwell. When the lights failed, I called his name, but he was already dead," said Poirot gently. Her eyes glistened. "You believe me?" "I believe you tell the truth, though not all of it." Before she could reply, footsteps echoed from the corridor. Ravi Mukherjee appeared in the doorway, his expression wild. "What's going on here?" he demanded. "Doctor, what are you doing?" Poirot stepped forward. "Ah, Monsieur Ravi. You, too, wander in the storm." Ravi's gaze flicked to the desk, then to the letter Poirot held. His face paled. "That's mine," he burst out. "My brother had no right to keep it." Poirot raised an eyebrow. "Indeed? You knew of this letter?" Ravi hesitated, then clenched his fists. "I intercepted part of it days ago. I thought it concerned money, a debt. I took it from his drawer." When I read it, I realized it was about the gem. Poirot's tone was mild. So you confronted him? Yes, he said bitterly. He laughed at me. Said I was a fool and that I'd never understand the true value of what he possessed. And that night, Poirot murmured, you went to his study. Ravi's eyes darted between us. No, I swear it. But Poirot's silence was damning. The young man turned and fled down the corridor before we could stop him. Poirot sighed. He runs not from us, Hastings, but from what he fears in himself. 3. The broken window. By morning, the storm had worsened. Servants discovered Ravi's room empty, the window flung wide open. Beneath it, footprints led across the drenched garden to the old fountain. Superintendent Bose organized a search party, but the grounds were vast and sodden. Poirot and I followed the prints ourselves, our umbrellas straining against the wind. They led to the edge of the lotus pond, where the water had overflowed into the grass. There, half buried in the mud, Poirot stooped and retrieved something small. A sapphire. But not the one from Benares. This was the missing star of Bengal, its brilliance dulled by grime. Poirot turned it over in his hand, eyes shining with grim satisfaction. You see, Hastings? When the storm breaks again, it brings to the surface that which was hidden. Then Ravi. Poirot shook his head. Perhaps. But not so simple. The placement is too deliberate. No thief hides his prize where the rain may wash it away. He gazed toward the mist-shrouded trees. No, Hastings. This was meant to be found. For the gathering clouds. By afternoon, Ravi was still missing. Bose was convinced he had fled to Calcutta by train, but Poirot disagreed. He is still here, he insisted. A man in panic runs in circles, always returning to the scene of his greatest fear. Poirot spent the rest of the day in silence, pacing between the library and the study, his mind evidently racing. Occasionally, he muttered to himself, fragments of sentences, half in French, half in English. 2 sapphires, 2 letters, 2 brothers, always 2, but the balance must break. I tried to draw him out, but he merely smiled faintly. Patience, mon ami. The truth is like the mango fruit, it ripens best in the heat. That evening, as twilight deepened, a servant arrived breathless. Sahib. There is someone by the river gate, calling for Monsieur Poirot. We hurried outside. Through the mist, we saw Ravi, drenched, trembling, and pale as death. He held out his hands in surrender. Poirot, he gasped, you must believe me, I didn't kill him. But I know who did. Poirot regarded him steadily, then nodded once. Then come, monsieur. Let us end this charade. Thunder rolled once more, long and low, as we escorted Ravi back to the house. Poirot turned to me as we entered the grand hall. Tomorrow morning, Hastings, the final curtain will rise. The murderer will face his audience. He smiled faintly. An Hercule Poirot, he will bow. Chapter 7, Poirot gathers his audience. The morning after the storm dawned grey and sullen. Low clouds hung over the Hooghly River, their reflections rippling like bruises upon the water. The air inside Chowringhee House was thick with unease. No one spoke above a whisper, even the servants moved as though fearful of disturbing unseen spirits. Arjun Mukherjee, now under gentle guard by Superintendent Bose, sat pale and exhausted in the library. He had slept little, haunted, he said, by the memory of his brother's face in the lightning's flash. Poirot, by contrast, was immaculate as ever, his patent leather shoes gleamed, his moustache curved with mathematical precision, and his manner possessed a serenity that was almost unsettling. At precisely 10 o'clock, he sent word for everyone to assemble in the drawing room. Mesdames et messieurs, he announced grandly, the time has come for the truth to stand unveiled. You have all played your parts in this tragic drama. Now the curtain must rise, and we shall see who wore which mask. Aye, the drawing room gathering. They came one by one. Lady Eleanor Fielding, elegant but drawn, her white gown offset by the faintest hint of jasmine perfume. Colonel Dobson, stiff and defensive, his ruddy complexion mottled with anger. Dr. Amara Das, calm, poised, her dark eyes weary but resolute. And finally, Arjun Mukherjee, trembling slightly as he took his seat near the window, rainwater still drying on his cuffs. Superintendent Beau stood discreetly near the door, notebook in hand. Poirot waited until the last clock chime faded before he began. Let us review, he said, his voice low yet commanding. On the night of the storm, the Star of Bengal vanished, and soon after, Sir Arjun Mukherjee was found dead in his study. The windows locked, the door fastened from within, and the key in his pocket. The sapphire gone. It appeared impossible. He clasped his hands. And yet, Miss Amos, impossibility is merely the disguise of the obvious. A faint murmur stirred the room. 2. The reconstruction. Sir Arjun was murdered not by stealth, but by arrangement, Poirot continued. He had expected his killer, and trusted them. He paced slowly, his gaze drifting over the faces before him. The letter from Benares arrived the previous afternoon. It warned that the true owner of the gem would soon demand its return. Sir Arjun was troubled, yes, but not frightened. That evening, he summoned someone privately to his study. Ravi spoke hoarsely. He called for me. Yes, monsieur, he did. But you were not the only one. Poirot turned sharply toward Lady Fielding. He also sent a note to you, madam, asking you to bring with you something you once sold to his father many years ago, a blue velvet pouch. Her eyes widened in alarm. How could you know that? Because, Poirot said softly, I found the remains of the note in your fireplace. You attempted to burn it during the night. She blanched. I thought it would look compromising. On the contrary, madam. It explains much. You brought the pouch as he requested, thinking it would be used to display the sapphire at the gathering. But Sir Arjun had another purpose. He wished to prove to you that the stone was genuine, by comparing it to its twin, which he had just received from Benares. Lady Fielding whispered, then he did have both. For a few hours only, said Poirot. He placed the twin in your pouch for safekeeping. But others knew of it, and desired it. He turned suddenly to Colonel Dobson. You, Colonel, offered to buy the gem weeks ago. You were refused. Yet that night, I found traces of cigar ash near the study door, of a brand known only to you. Dobson stiffened. I was outside for air. Yes, listening, perhaps? You saw Lady Fielding leave the study after her brief visit. You entered moments later, to plead your case again. But Sir Arjun, proud and sharp of tongue, mocked you for your greed. In anger, you struck him, a single blow. Dobson half rose. That's absurd. He was alive when I left. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Indeed, alive, but not for long. For another visitor followed. 3. The second visitor. Poirot turned toward Dr. Das. You, mademoiselle? She inclined her head. I have already admitted to going near his study that night. Just so, Poirot said gently. But what you have not said is that you entered it. A murmur ran through the room. I did not, she began. Poirot raised a hand. Permit me. You found Sir Arjun collapsed in his chair, semi-conscious from the blow. The storm raged, the lights flickered. Believing him merely stunned, you sought to help him, but when he opened his eyes, he accused you. He thought you had come to steal the gem, to return it to Benares. In his rage, he seized your wrist. Dr. Das's voice trembled. Yes, he did. In the struggle, the lamp fell, the lights went out, and he struck his head upon the edge of the desk. Instant death. The silence that followed was profound. Then Lady Fielding gasped. Good heavens, then it was an accident. Poirot shook his head slowly. Ah, but not entirely. For what happened after transforms tragedy into murder? 4. The true thief. He walked to the window, the rain streaking faintly against the glass. You see, Mademoiselle was not alone for long. Someone else entered soon after, someone who saw opportunity in chaos. He turned toward Ravi. The young man's face went white. Your brother lay dead, said Poirot softly. The sapphire lay on the desk beside him, the twin in Lady Fielding's pouch. You believed Dr. Das guilty, and in panic you sought to protect the family name. So you hid the gem, intending to destroy it. But the thunder frightened you, you dropped it by the fountain where I found it yesterday morning. Ravi's voice broke. Yes. I took it. But I swear I didn't kill him. Poirot nodded. I know. The act of removal was foolish, not criminal. Yet it served another's purpose. He turned back to the group, his tone suddenly crisp. For when I examined Sir Arjun's body, I noticed a faint scent, not of jasmine, not of medicine, but of gun oil. A military brand used to polish leather gloves. And who in this house owns such gloves? Dobson sprang to his feet, face purple. You dare accuse me? Poirot's voice cut through the air like steel. Colonel, when you struck Sir Arjun, you believed him merely dazed. But the second blow, the one that fractured his skull, came after you returned. Lies. Mon Colonel. When the lights failed, you slipped back into the study to retrieve your cigar case. You found him stirring, attempting to rise, and you panicked. You seized the bronze paperweight and silenced him forever. Dobson's mouth opened, then closed again. His eyes darted helplessly toward Lady Fielding and then to the superintendent. Both stepped forward. Colonel Dobson, do you have anything to say? The colonel's shoulders sagged. He threatened to expose me. The smuggling, the shipments from Burma. I didn't mean to kill him. I only wanted to frighten him. Poirot bowed his head. You see, Hastings, the crime, it is never born of malice alone, but of vanity and fear. The balance restored. As Bose led the defeated colonel away, a heavy silence settled. The rain had eased at last. Poirot turned toward the remaining guests. The Star of Bengal shall be returned to its rightful home, he said gently. Dr. Das will see to that. The twin from Benares will join it, and together they will rest once more in peace. Ravi's voice was low. Then, it's truly over? Poirot smiled faintly. For you, monsieur, perhaps the beginning rather than the end. Use your brother's name well. Lady Fielding rose, tears glimmering. Monsieur Poirot, how did you know? He spread his hands modestly. Because, madam, every detail must be symmetrical. 2 sapphires, 2 blows, 2 visitors. The pattern, once seen, could not be ignored. He turned to me, his eyes twinkling. And now, Hastings, we shall have tea, as strong and sweet, as befits victory over Fossard. The storm had passed. Sunlight broke through the clouds, casting long beams across the marble floor. Poirot stood in their glow, immaculate and composed, as though the heavens themselves had paused to applaud his triumph. Chapter 8, The Eyes of Kartikeya. The evening sun lingered low over Madurai, casting long golden fingers across the courtyards of the Pandya Residency. The air had a quiet, almost reverent stillness, as though the city itself waited for the final note of an unfinished symphony. Inside the residence's veranda, Hercule Poirot sat with his customary grace, sipping spiced tea from a porcelain cup. Captain Hastings joined him, notebook in hand, still visibly shaken from the morning's revelations. "Mon cher Hastings," Poirot said softly, "you have that expression which tells me your mind is troubled. Speak." Hastings hesitated. "It's all so dreadful, Poirot. Colonel Dobson, smuggling, murder, deceit, and all under the guise of friendship. I can't fathom how men of honor fall so far." Poirot's moustache twitched sympathetically. "It is because, mon ami, honor is a fragile thing when pride enters the heart. Vanity, always vanity. Even the bravest soldier may lose his way if his reflection in the mirror begins to lie to him." He set his cup down gently. "Come, we must attend the ceremony. It is not yet the end. The return of the twins." That night, a small gathering assembled at the Meenakshi temple under the great carved towers of gopurams that gleamed like ancient jewels. Lanterns flickered in the warm air, and the scent of sandalwood drifted through the courtyard. The Sapphire twins, the famed Eyes of Kartikeya, had been placed together once more upon a silver altar before the sanctum. Dr. Amara Das, dressed in white silk, stood near the shrine, her face calm but luminous in the lamplight. Arjun Mukherjee was beside her, humbled yet visibly relieved. Superintendent Bose and a few museum officials watched as the priest recited prayers in low, rhythmic Sanskrit. Poirot stood slightly apart, his small frame erect, his eyes reflecting the deep blue of the gems. The priest lifted his hands, chanting blessings over the twin sapphires. Then, with ceremonial precision, he lowered them into an ornate reliquary, a chamber to be sealed and placed within the temple treasury. As the final bell rang, Hastings murmured, "It's strange, Poirot, two stones, separated for centuries, reunited here tonight. Almost poetic." Poirot smiled faintly. "Exactment. And do you not see, Hastings? The jewels were the key to everything. They were not merely objects of beauty, they were mirrors, reflecting the souls of those who desired them." 2. A private confession. After the ceremony, Dr. Das approached Poirot. Her voice was steady, though her eyes shimmered with fatigue. "You have restored justice, Monsieur Poirot. And yet I feel only sorrow. Sir Arjun's death, though not my doing, haunts me still." Poirot inclined his head. "You fought to protect what was sacred to your people, and yet you showed mercy when confronted with hatred. That, mademoiselle, is the true nobility." She sighed. "The sapphire belonged not to men but to faith. I only wish to return it home." Poirot studied her thoughtfully. "And now it has found peace, thanks to you. But tell me, why did you not reveal your connection to the temple from the beginning?" Her lips curved in a sad smile. "Because I feared you would see me not as a scholar, but as a zealot. I needed you to judge by reason, not by prejudice." "Ah," said Poirot softly, "then you understood human nature as well as I do." They exchanged a quiet look, two minds, different yet aligned by respect. 3. Poirot's final explanation. Later that night, as rain began to whisper against the eaves once more, Poirot and Hastings retired to the veranda. A small oil lamp flickered between them. "Tell me, Poirot," Hastings said, leaning forward eagerly. "When did you first suspect the Colonel?" Poirot's eyes gleamed. "From the moment he mentioned his collection of Burmese curios." "Curios, Hastings?" Yet none were visible in his luggage. "I deduced that what he called curios were in fact illegal exports, rubies, ivory, perhaps even arms. Sir Arjun discovered this through the customs ledgers. Their quarrel sealed his fate." "And the gun oil scent?" Hastings prompted. "Ah, that was the final harmony in the melody. A faint but distinct odour upon the window latch, which, I might add, the Colonel had pretended to test the previous afternoon. He claimed to admire the view. In truth, he was checking whether the window could serve as an escape route. But alas, the storm betrayed him. Hastings shook his head in admiration. "You amaze me, Poirot." Poirot smiled modestly. "It is the little things, mon ami. Always the little things. The smudge of oil, the torn scrap of blue velvet, the mismatched footprints by the fountain. Details, they are the notes that compose truth's music." He paused. And then there were the human details, the tempers, the pride, the jealousies. The murder, you see, was not born of theft alone but of humiliation. Colonel Dobson could not bear the idea of being unmasked by an Indian nobleman he considered his inferior. The blow to his pride was fatal, both to himself and to his victim. 4. The quiet justice. 2 days later, a discreet inquest was held. Colonel Dobson confessed in full, his statement concise but remorseful. He was to be tried in Calcutta. The smuggling ring he had led quickly unravelled, exposing several officers of rank. The scandal would echo through the colonial clubs for months to come. Lady Eleanor Fielding left India quietly, her reputation tarnished but her conscience lightened. Ravi Mukherjee assumed stewardship of his brother's estate and publicly donated half of its holdings to cultural preservation in Madurai, a gesture Poirot privately described as the redemption of a foolish heart. As for Dr. Das, she was appointed curator of the newly established Temple Museum, where the twin sapphires would remain under her care. Hastings observed it all with quiet admiration. "You've not only solved a crime, Poirot," he said as they prepared to depart, "but set right a whole tangle of wrongs." Poirot adjusted his hat. "Mais oui. The balance of the universe, Hastings, it must be maintained. One cannot allow injustice to tilt the scales. Even the gods, I think, approve when symmetry is restored." The journey onward. Their train departed Madurai at dawn, bound for Ceylon. As the engine whistled, Poirot gazed out of the window at the temple towers receding into the mist. Hastings, beside him, was lost in thought. "Do you believe in curses, Poirot? The legend said those who divided the Eyes of Kartikeya would meet misfortune." Poirot chuckled softly. "A curse, mon ami, is merely the poetic expression of cause and effect. Those who covet what is sacred invite their own downfall. To separate the twins was to disturb harmony, to reunite them, to heal it." He leaned back, satisfied. "The gods need not punish, human folly does that well enough." Hastings smiled faintly. "And you, Poirot, ever the healer of human folly?" Poirot's eyes twinkled. "Ah, but you flatter me. I am but a humble psychologist who observes too much and sleeps too little." They fell into companionable silence. Outside, the paddy fields shimmered green under the rising sun, and the cries of peacocks echoed faintly through the air. As the train crossed the bridge over the Vaigai River, Poirot lifted his hat, as though in salute to the distant temple. "The Eyes of Kartikeya watch over all," he murmured. "And perhaps, Hastings, they smile tonight." The train rolled on, its wheels singing against the rails, a rhythm like a heartbeat steadying after turmoil. The case of the twin sapphires had ended, leaving behind not triumph nor tragedy, but something rarer, equilibrium. And in that balance, Hercule Poirot found his quiet satisfaction, the order he sought not only in crimes, but in the souls of men.